Okay. So if someone were to come to you today and say, hey, I want a house hack, what would be your number one tip for them?
Just to make sure that they're comfortable with it. Like, okay, here's what you're signing up for. Like, here's the pros, and I guess some of the cons that we've discovered or discussed. But I would just say, make sure that they're eyes wide open going into it, so that you're not the one looking like the bad guy if they get into a scenario that doesn't fit what they're hoping for or expecting.
Yeah.
So,
and that's fair to say. I think some people assume that it's really easy or it's really hard, but something as simple as you are sharing walls with someone, or you do have to take on the landlord role, and that can be intimidating. But for your case, you were able to figure out, even if you had to call the cops or go through some crazy drama.
Thankfully there was no cops involved.
Okay, good.
But it was just one of those things where I think the way you approach and word things and handle things is definitely a big deal. So
one of the biggest things that I've seen is the old adage of where like an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. 100% accurate when it comes to picking renters for your house, because it's a lot easy to just say something right up front and set the expectation, but it's really hard once that expectation has either not been met or wasn't done well to have to go back and redo it again, which is why we have the whole home lord process in the system, is to help know what points are important to hit on, because a lot of people just don't know. And it avoids so many awkward conversations if you just know what you're doing right from the get-go.
Yeah. I've also learned from experience too that some of the best and some of the worst renters are your own family, right? Like,
yes.
So when the church shows up with your check rent to pay for your family to live there, you're like, oh,
shoot.
Yeah, I kind of feel guilty, but you're like, it's we all signed the contract, but that was not expected.
Yep. Yeah.
We're asked often with our home buyers who get house hacks, should I rent for family because they have someone that's interested? And we typically recommend that you don't, unless it's absolutely necessary, because it opens the door to so many more problems. Kind of like the sob story, right? Mm-hmm. It's so hard to enforce a lease agreement when it's a family member.
Yeah. But I'm your cousin.
We share the same last name. Yeah, for sure.
Blood is better, that whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but financially, it can be really rough. So I'm curious, after that first house hack, that was like a huge launch pad for you guys. Did you house hack again after that, or did you kind of move on because you probably had some kids at some point? Okay, so you did hack again after that.
So the second house we moved into, we weren't there long enough to really do it. It was an unfinished basement. We ended up buying it creatively and sold it creatively. I think we bought it for $300, sold it 10 months later for like $380, $385. And that kind of helped us get into our last home that I mentioned. So we paid $432 for it. I think our mortgage payment, which again, I thought we were crazy paying like $2,000 a month for a mortgage. But I think again, I think we ended up getting like $1,000 a month for the basement and that too. So it had,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And eventually that's where kind of our road with house hacking ended. Just, when you've got 5-6 kids, you got to,
I'll say, if you feel comfortable sharing, how many kids did you have in your first house hack and the second house hack? Because some people that comes up often of like, at what point should I not house hack because I want more space, I'm having more kids?
So our first one, we had 3 kids. There was the most we ever had. And then at our last home, we had 5. So, and that's once we had our 5th, we adopted one. And then right when we adopted him, my wife found out she was pregnant. So they're only like 14 months apart. So it was kind of at that point we're like, okay, it's probably time to shut off the basement, shut off the basement to renters. And so I ended up turning one of the rooms in the basement to my home office, and then my daughter had the other room. So, but it's amazing to have, once you have that space that you're not used to occupying, you're like, oh,
makes your house feel massive.
Yeah, a second kitchen that now turns into like my home gym, and so it's nice. But yeah, the income's probably a little bit better, for sure.
But that's still a cool evolution of house hacking where it's a financial blessing, but when you need it, you can use it for your own space.
Yeah,
And
totally.
a lot of people
Yeah.
don't think about it that way.